Okay, welcome back everybody to round five,
It's five.
of the Gentry Open. We don't have undefeated players anymore since they've already reached a point where they can draw. So we didn't want to take the risk. So you have both of these players are on 3-1, I believe, or
Yes.
3-0-1 maybe. And the reason we have Taze here is because we have a very fun, very interesting deck in this match that is Wilderness Reclamation Nexus of Fate. It's a port of the standard deck that we can make work in Gentry because there's this one little card that makes it all work, and this invert or invent is the correct name.
Yep.
Gives us the option to constantly go look for it. So it's a more mana hungry version of the standard deck, but since Gentry is in general a slightly lower power level, we
That's
can
true.
get away with this. Facing off against that is what is probably one of his worser matchups in blue-black hard control that actually plays the counter spells and even some syncopate as the nightmare. Get
Yes,
your
the
Nexus
nightmare,
syncopated and there's no more win.
So the challenge really is for Kristof here to dodge that syncopate, because I think if Nexus of Fate gets syncopated, then he has to really alter his game plan. Don't think he's got much things to do then.
Yeah, what's plan B for him? He has one Murmuring Mystic.
Yes, and he has one big expansion explosion. So
Yeah,
that's so maybe I think expansion explosion is his plan B, and then murmuring mystic is plan C. But I don't know how many removal does Bob have for the murmuring mystic. Is this the -5 -5?
yes.
It's not that
Orc
much.
Harvest.
Yeah, resolving mystic should be fine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to talk a bit about the deck Kristof is playing. It's basically a deck designed around the card you see right now. It's Nexus of Fate, and like Neil said earlier, the standard deck plays 4 copies of Nexus, so you can just keep looping those alongside Wilderness Reclamation. Wilderness Reclamation is like the key to this deck, whereas Nexus is just the payoff. Reclamation gives you double, triple, quadruple the amount of mana you should normally have in a normal game of Magic. So this really allows you to play one invent for 6 mana, get your Nexus of Fate, and also recollect. And then in the same turn you have 7 mana. Normally, just cast the Nexus of Fate. That's an 13 mana investment. You shouldn't be able to do this, but Wilderness Reclamation is what enables this.
And we are on our way. So we get Wilderness Reclamation, just so you know what to look out for in this matchup.
Yeah. If there's one card Bob really needs to counter, or in this case, discard, seeing as he's playing a Torture Rager, it's the one you're seeing right now, the Wilderness Reclamation. That's just so key in this deck. It's so important. You always want to have it. You want to play it every turn. It's also the reason why Kristof is playing one of his rares into. Okay, there you see it. The Reclamation is there. We don't know what Bob is gonna take, but I'm like 97% sure. Oh wait, there we go.
It's like he knows how to play this deck.
And of course, Bob is a really good player. He knows what.
The
He
reason
knows
we
what
have
to
Taze
take.
here, by the way, is because he's the one that started the whole Wilderness Reclamation. Like a lot of people were talking about it, but you're the one who actually started it.
I don't know. There was this one invitational, I think two invitationals ago, where 3 of the 8 people were playing a different version, but all had 4 reclamations, I think.
The previous invitation.
It's
that
the
is.
previous?
Yeah. Well, not the most recent one.
But the one before, yeah.
The Alliance.
Yeah, that was a really cool invitational to play.
Very slow invitational.
That was the invitational that made you decide to make a pool for decks, so
Yes.
they can't
So
like.
we had different decks for everyone.
So the invitational I'm talking about, that was like the, how to say, the reason you started doing that.
Well, the invitation has always been a showcase event to show the kind of decks that are available in the format. So it just makes sense to do it that way.
Yeah, definitely. It's more viewing pleasure you have in this way, instead of just having the risk of seeing 8 mono red decks in your invitational. That's a nightmare, right?
That's a worst case scenario for sure.
Okay, so Bob having some discard spells together with a Sahili. Yeah, this is like seeing
Where did the Narset got surveilled away? Okay,
seeing his deck
because he
list.
doesn't have lands.
Oh, he's missing land drops. Okay. How many lands does he play?
24,
Yeah, 24.
which is light for a control deck.
That's true. I think Kristof is playing more. He's playing like 614 plus 10. Oh no, he's also playing for 24.
And he already had an Narset.
Oh, okay.
No,
So
wrong Narset.
how do you approach this matchup from the taking turn side?
Well, it's all about positioning and getting to that point where you're safe to try to push your extremely fragile plan against control. Like we said, there's 3 syncopates there that can make or break this game.
Definitely.
If he syncopates 3 correct spells, then the match is just over.
Yes.
Which must be a pretty scary position to be in.
Yeah, Bob is probably very aware of what deck he's playing against right now, and is really making his plays accordingly. He's making a little bit of value every turn with the Sahili, all the while disrupting Kristof's game plan.
Yeah, this is the window though for Kristof. Like if Kristof
This was the
here
window.
had Reclamation into Chemister's Insight, the game could have spiraled out of control already.
Yep.
So Bob not having his mana, the opportunity to deploy and disrupt at the same time,
Yeah.
is really handicapping him here.
Also, how about Narset?
Yeah.
That's an insanely painful card for the Reclamation deck, because the deck thrives on drawing and drawing cards until it finds its combo pieces.
Yeah, but Ascanta and Invert don't draw you cards,
Luckily not. Also,
so you can still go through.
Shimmer of Possibility also doesn't draw. That's cool.
That's a Chemister's Insight for 1 card.
So basically, I'm just taking back what I said. He's just playing Opt, but he can play Opt in Bob's turn. He can play Chemister's Insight. Chemister's Insight is the one that's hurting the most, but
Yeah.
you still draw 1 card. It's
Which he
fine.
just did.
Yeah.
He
Okay,
just cycled it.
I'm looking at the papers instead of the
Yeah.
screen.
The Narset doesn't hurt him that as bad as it could.
No, actually, it's weird. I thought it would be like insanely painful for him.
Oh,
Big play, big counter. That's too bad. This is Bob enabling his game plan. Kristof has 2 cards in hand. One of which is kinda dead. It's because I see an counter target creature spell. What's the name?
Essence Scatter.
Essence Scatter. And how many creatures is Bob playing to Essence Scatter? I will tell you, my
0.
friends. But
Pretty sure it's 0.
Niels is saying 0.
No, not true. 1.
Oh, there's
There's
okay,
a
one.
God Eternal Cabinet.
That's the 3rd Thought Eraser.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, that's a really painful. I think this matchup. I think the blue-black deck is like geared to beat this deck. You see, he's just dismantling it really, really easily.
Yes, Kristof knew about the negate, but that doesn't really help him. He has to push and force issue. And
Oh, there we go.
we have a second Reclamation.
So if that sticks,
It does.
uh,
And now suddenly we have a lot of
3,
options.
3.
We're now talking about a mana discrepancy of 18 versus 4.
Yep. But Kristof is empty-handed, and there's a Narset, so it's really difficult for him to start refueling. He can go Blink of an Eye on the Narset, but he has to do it end of turn. Does he play Blink of an Eye?
Ooh, and there's a Karn.
He does not play Blink of an Eye.
Which Karn is this? Cyan.
Sign of Urza. The card advantage engine keeps going. Every time I see Bob play, he's playing some sort of blue-black, Esper, maybe sometimes Jeskai build.
Yep.
He's known for playing control decks.
It's nice to have someone like Bob
Yeah.
in the community, just to keep people awake and honest.
Yeah. Just a fair deck, you know.
Yeah, people
So-
often sleep on the more classic control decks, forgetting that in what Gentry stands for, having your essence scatters, your negates, your spell pierces, your syncopates all be commons gives you so much flexibility in the rest of your deck
Definitely.
that it's deceptionate how much
Deception.
power gets condensed in a deck like this.
Yeah, also you're using common spells to answer your opponent's rares and uncommons.
Yeah.
So that's the fourth dot erasure, right?
Yes.
No? And how much mana does Kristof have now? It's 18 plus 24?
27.
27 mana, so can work.
27 versus 4.
So, expansion explosion is game?
Yes.
Come on, Kristof, you can do it.
Somebody's a bit partial, I feel.
I know, sorry. I'm not partial to the players, I'm partial to the deck.
Okay, I'm partial to Bob then.
Then that's fine. Yeah.
I'm partial both the player and no, that's not true.
Are you partial to his deck?
Yes, I am.
Knocking the deck, scooping them up.
Like we've talked a lot about the value and the position of certain decks in the meta game, where, like for example, mono red. You need mono red as a baseline of the most aggressive, scary thing there is in the format.
Yep.
That is easy to pick up, that is relatively easy to pilot, near impossible to master, just like any deck pretty much, and have this sort of how are you beating mono red?
Yeah.
And in the same vein, you need somebody like Bob who goes, zero pressure, no, I'm going to grind you out with everything I have, I'm going to value squeeze every card that I play until
Yep.
suddenly I end up being 15 cards up on you and you're completely neutered with 3 dead cards in your hand. And I feel like we're still at a point in Gentry where a lot of players, especially newer players, forget that this is the other end of the spectrum, that you need to pay attention to this. We'll see a lot of people prepare to deal with creature matchups and early rushes, and people know, oh yeah, I have to make sure I have this sideboard card and this sideboard card against aggro decks. But learning to play against control is one of the harder and honestly, learning to play
Yes.
against them is not a fun skill.
Actually, one of the biggest mistakes I see people make when playing against control deck. Let's imagine you are playing a mono red deck. You have a deck with like 16 burn spells in them, all designed to go directly to the face. You will reach a point against the control deck where they are just like have all the card advantage in the world. They have like 5-6 cards in hand. But then you have to like switch gears and look at their mana developments. Let's say they just have 6 mana in play. Let's say they have 7 cards in hand. Let's say you have 2 cards. What do you do with a deck that applies no pressure? You just hoard them up in your hands. That's the difference between very good burn players. I'm talking about modern now as an analogy. What I see good players do in burn, they just draw a card and say go. And they keep doing that for like 5-6 turns. They draw and say go. They draw lightning bolts, they draw lightning helixes, they draw all the burn stats they need. Until they reach one point in the cycle of turns where the control player is still not applying pressure, but it's like, oh, I have all this counter mana. But then you just start, okay, I pass my turn to you, and then at the end of your turn I will start throwing all my burn spells to you with your 6-7 mana. You will tap out eventually. You will have no mana left. Then I will start my turn and still have a hand of 3-4 cards maybe. Maybe with a Boros Charm to deal 4 to you, which will get through. And that takes patience to try that strategy. And as a burn player, you're usually not the most patient person. So yeah, that's just one thing I wanted to say.
As a burn player, you're usually not the most patient player. All this stereotyping. But
I
you're
know,
right.
I know, right? Yeah, I'm really good at like putting people in categories. One of my worst habits.
In the meantime, we also have the standings that we can look at. Since maybe we'll wait until we have time.
I think they're just starting game 1. See if there are any mulligans happening here. So talking about sideboards, I see who's mulligan. So Kristof is keeping and Bob is taking a mulligan. So he's probably siding in a lot of cards. I see 3 duress, 2 negates, 2 disdainful strokes, and then I think that's about it. What's this card here? Charity Extractor?
Yes, it's a 1/5 lifelink for 4.
Oh, this one. Probably not coming in this matchup. So I see about 7 cards that Bob is probably siding in. Let's see what Kristof is trying to change. He has 4 Centaur Nurturer, 4 Negate, 4 Druid of the Cow, 3 Spell Pierce, and 1 Fairy Cannonade. So looking at this at first sight, I think Kristof is also siding in 7 cards. 7 cards being the 4 Negate and the 3 Spell Pierce. Those are really interesting here in order to make sure that he can resolve one of his big cards. And the game is underway.
Excellent.
So starting off with one of his sideboarded cards, the Duress. Let's see what Kristof kept in hand. Ooh, that's search for Ascanta on turn 2, something this deck always wants to do, but the rest came in the way. Still, the 2 Chemisters Insight in Kristof's hand will help him reload in the mid game.
Ooh, we already have the expansion explosion in hand as well. Oh,
do we?
Maybe
oh,
not anymore.
Oh, there it goes. Oh, that's too bad. That's painful.
Yeah. So Duress stripping Kristof from setup and finisher now.
So basically, Bob is playing Junt. He's playing blue-black, but he's really playing Junt, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, he doesn't have the finishing power of Junt, really.
No, that's true. Yeah, he's just more reliant on the Planeswalkers to help him win the game.
So, Chemister's Insight, reloading for Kristof.
He can flashback, he can jumpstart him, so that's like drawing 8 cards over time, not in one turn. There we got Sahili. Oh, meets a negate. So does Kristof play negates in the main deck? He does not, so both players really using their sideboard cards.
Yeah, negate. I think negate is the most pivotal sideboard card in Gentry. Like every blue deck has the rest of the negates or the negates in their sideboard.
There probably are like 4 negates in most 75s.
Yeah.
Oh, now it's interesting.
Chemister's Insight number 2.
Yeah, no, he drew an Inverted Vent and he's hitting his 7th land drop right now.
Yeah, and a Glimmer.
He does not have a Reclamation, so he can go crazy on the manas. So he's going for Glimmer here. I wouldn't really do that. I would just pass the turn, keep up counter mana, and if Bob does nothing, just expansion. Try and find a Nexus and a regrowth. Play play the Nexus, take another turn, then regrow the Nexus, and hopefully in this sequence find.
It's not Glimmer? Ah, it's Shimmer of Possibility.
It's Shimmer, yeah. So as I was saying, I would maybe take another line here, going for the Invert Invent, and hope to. Hey, see Bob is passing, so he's keeping up counter mana, yes. But if you play Invert Invent at the end of Bob's turn, and he counters it, then you have 3 mana to play with. Oh, what's this? He's discarding something we don't know.
Jumpstart.
It's an island. All right. See, Bob had the counter spell, but
Yeah, Spell Pierce is
So
the
his spell pierces.
Chemister's Insight?
He spell
Yeah.
pierces the Chemister's Insight. So yeah, Bob's holding 3 cards. This is looking a bit worse for Bob than last game.
Yes.
I think maybe he's going for the no, of course Spiral first, but he can probably still do it. So, and then he should go for the Invent.
Yeah.
Nope, still not. He's really holding on to it.
Yeah, if you have the Chemister's Insights, you have the time to build up your hand, build
Yeah.
up that mana advantage, because eventually this kind of matchups, now that he plays the counter spells himself as well, become a lot more interactive and interesting for Kristof if he can run away with the mana without being under pressure. So getting rid of that Sahili was super important because it buys him infinite time.
Yep. Yeah, this is turning into a game where both players are just staring at each other with multiple counter spells in hand and just waiting for the first player to actually make a move.
Yeah. And Kristof has the capability of doing that on Bob's turn, like you said, doing it at the end of turn, forcing him to react, and then untapping. And especially with Reclamation, like you commit to mana, it resolves. Okay, I have my mana back.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating to play against as a control deck if the player with Reclamation knows what they're doing. And Kristof, being a former Belgian champion, probably knows a thing or two about playing Magic.
Probably, yeah.
Now, my most hated card to put on the viewer,
Opt.
Yes,
Because-
because all the Thopters.
Oh yeah. You can make a more you can take a better picture of Opt here, I think. The one from Portal Second Age. That's the coolest one, I think.
There's a Portal Opt?
I think so, yeah.
No?
Oh, it's Invasion. Sorry. I think I'm talking about Sleight of Hand here.
Yes. These are also the
There.
ones I play with.
There we go. Those are beautiful. Okay, we got a counter war for the Reclamation. A big counter war. Wow. And it resolves. Okay. So now Kristof has the option to go in overdrive.
Yeah, because he's still holding that Invert Invent, right?
I think so. So he can go off this turn. Bob has spent two counter spells. He has 2 in the pool now, and he's untapping 2, 4, 6. He's untapping 10.
Yeah.
So he has 12 at this moment. Oh no, nothing happening.
And they're still not passing.
But where are we now? Are we in
We're
Bob's
still
turn?
we're still in Kristof's turn. Yeah, he now passed.
Okay.
So yeah, he was missing 1 mana to go off.
Was he? It's 13. He
Yeah,
needs.
13.
He had 12. Yeah. Okay. Bam. Going back to the hands.
Which one is it? Callous Dismissal.
Okay, now Kristof can do something really cool. He can invert for a counter spell and then regrowth, counter the Callous Dismissal, and then regrowth the invert invent, and then just do it. And that's
Yep.
not what he's doing. He's just doing the good old Nexus and regrowth. Oh, but it's back to hand. So
Yeah, it's a bounce.
Okay, it doesn't do anything because Reclamation is mana neutral.
But it's better than mana neutral usually.
Yeah.
Storm count is 1? No, that's
the zombie token probably. Aren't there tokens there?
Yes. Bob, heb tokens naast u op tafel. Normaal wel.
It's an Amas token.
Ja. A massive token.
Discarding for Chemistry's Insight number 7.
3 times 2. Keep the 1. So, untap. Reclamation, go nuts. That's the plan, right?
That's the plan. And now
But
he has...
Bob bounced it here, so...
Yeah, but he has the additional land drop. So now he had 12 mana last turn, now he has 14 mana.
He
So
doesn't
now
need it, he already has the Nexus.
Yes, true. Oh yeah. Keeping up. It's hard.
Coverage is hard work, man.
It's hard keeping up with this deck.
So Bob has 2 cards in hand. He keeps hiding them. So
I don't think they're really interactive.
yeah, I think he shot off all he had to shoot. Some stuff in the background. So recollects the invert invent.
So doing recollect on the invent because obviously you cannot recollect the Nexus. It gets shuffled back in the deck.
Yep.
But now
4 mana floating. 4 makes 7. Take an extra
so yeah,
turn.
he's going off.
Shuffle it.
So
Already has the invent to go find it again. And Kristof is actually playing Tomatic Compass to have a sealed loop with Recollect.
Automatic Compass, really?
Yep. If I'm not mistaken.
No.
Primal Amulet is the one I
Primal
mean.
Amulet, yeah. Yeah, Primal Amulet is like Wilderness Reclamation number 5.
Yeah.
Something, yeah. You can do really insane things
No,
with
it doubles the spell.
Yep.
So with Recollect, you return 2 spells.
Yeah.
And
But the front side is like
the front
like
side
gives you mana because it makes your spell cheaper.
Yeah.
And
So
then
both sides actually
produce
help.
mana, yeah. The thing I like to do really when you have the flipped side, the side you see right now, it's just with the Reclamation trigger on the stack, float all your mana, including the mana from the primal, which will copy something. Then resolve the Reclamation trigger and untap everything, and then play 1 invert invent and get the copy. Resolve the copy first, get the Nexus, leave the original one still on the stack, cast the Nexus, and then you resolve your original invert invent and you just
search the
search the Nexus you just cast. Yeah.
That's how you close the loop with Recollect and an invent with this one. But you need to. Does Recollect target?
Recollect.
Target, so it doesn't loop with itself.
Oh no!
If
no,
it said return a card,
gotcha.
then it would loop with itself.
Gotcha. No, actually no. The deck is not really infinite, but once you start taking three turns in a row, eventually you will just draw your whole deck and leave the 1 Nexus in so you can deck yourself, and at that point you have like all counter mana in your hand and you will resolve a Murmuring Mystic and make top tiers and take all your extra turns killing them with the top tiers, or
expansively explode your
really
opponent.
that's like the easy that's the easiest solution, just expansion for I don't know 37, just a random number, more than 20. So Kristof going off here, so I think his chances to win now are
dramatically increased. Yep. Also, with M20, we've got the gain lands again, the one that comes into play but gains you 1 life, which is a big deal for these kinds of decks for sure.
helps a lot.
So another invent goes to look for. So he's playing 2 Recollects?
No, I was.
Yes, he is.
Yes.
So he can go infinite.
Okay.
See, I knew he could go infinite.
Yeah.
So with 2 Recollects and the Primal Amulet, you can actually reach a state where you go, I have this, and this. Scoop.
Yep.
Even though I think there's nothing worse feeling in this deck than opening your initial 7 and seeing 2 Recollects in there.
Yeah, that's probably the worst that can happen.
It's like mulliganing twice already. You
see the thing with this deck, that's what I really like about it, is This is the first time we're seeing this type of deck in Gentry, right? The type of deck where, like, you're taking 15 minutes to win the game.
Oh no, we had Turbo Fog already.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, which isn't exactly like this, but comparable.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually talked about interesting and unique playstyles when we were talking about like combo decks that people try to play. Mono red being even mono red has a very distinct playstyle. Enigma Drakes being so different a playstyle from other types of decks. Mono blue being a very distinct playstyle.
Yes.
Well, the Curious Obsession mono blue decks that I feel like right now we have one of the most diverse feeling meta games.
You got something for every player.
Yeah.
You got something for every playstyle. You got all the archetypes. You even got like nutty combo decks like the ones we're seeing going off right now.
Yeah.
You got the control decks, like you see Bob playing that. You got the turbo aggro decks. You got mono white. You got mono red. You
Boros
got
aggro as well.
Boros aggro. Then you got all flavors of mid-range decks. Is Gates still a thing?
Gates is still
Gates
a thing.
still a thing. See, yeah, you're right. Gentry, you know, Gentry and Standard as a site is also at its largest right now. How many sets are in there?
8.
8 sets. So it's a lot of creative space to work with.
And we have a judge call apparently. Something Nexus.
While we were blabbering on, we missed what was happening.
I was trying to follow, but I heard judge, but I didn't realize what went wrong.
You see how tiny the deck has become? So eventually you are reaching the point where your deck is one card, Nexus.
Yeah. Well, we haven't reached. We like if you have the search
this?
for us.
F6?
I think he F6'd, yeah.
I
Can't read it.
I can read it also. You know what? For viewer pleasure, I will
Let's
see.
go check.
I will
It either says judge or F6, I think.
That, my friends, is a turn counter, with which set 2 turns and then a sad smiley face.
Ah, because he played a Nexus in the Nexus turn
Yes.
before it resolved. So,
Yes.
okay.
So Kristof has 2 extra turns in the bank. Keeping track of these tiny things is quite important in this deck. Of course, you
Tiny
can
thing, an extra turn.
Yep, definitely. You can verbally say you have it. It's perfect, like in a 1-versus-1 game. But when coverage is involved, it would be helpful to have like a turn counter.
So recollecting.
Bob swiftly looking to his graveyard for an answer, doesn't find it. Recollect resolves.
Ah, the boom is there.
Yeah.
So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 36 mana if he passes the turn. 36 mana or 27
enough.
this turn. Yeah. And that's a scoop de boop. So we're going to game 3 as Bob won the first one.
So what happened in this game?
Kristof took a lot of turns.
That's true. Basically, Bob had some early discard.
Yeah.
He took away a lot of cards, but he couldn't follow up with pressure. The little pressure he could muster was swiftly countered by Kristof.
So that's the Sahili.
That's the Sahili.
Because if the Sahili had been there, Kristof would have been under a lot of pressure. Because the turn that the Sahili was played, after that there was a lot of discards, there was a lot of control wars going on. And Kristof would have been under pressure. Here he wasn't even under pressure. He could have waited another X turns, but suddenly we came to a position where he could force Bob to tap lower, and then resolve that first Reclamation. And as soon as that happened, things just spiraled out of control.
And that's where you saw the big advantage of the Taking Turns deck. It can enable its game plan on instant speed.
Yeah.
Whereas Bob has to resolve his sorcery speed discard spells and his sorcery planeswalkers for pressure. So a 1-1.
Yep.
Both players keeping their 60 as it is, no extra sideboarding needed. Looking at the sideboards, they're both happy with their 7 counter spells that came in and just leaving it as that.
Also, having a quick look at the standings, we can already say that Alan Schuur and Arthur Hugaard have locked up top 8 for themselves. There's 3 undefeated players. The third one was paired down. That's Ruben Notes, which we've already seen on the in a feature match, who's currently playing on table 2. So we should have a pretty interesting round 6 as well. With some juicy battles for top 8 slots.
Is Ruben playing Mono Blue again?
Yes.
So he's like the Mono Blue master at this point.
Yes. Well, he said he barely played because the Saint Niklaas community collapsed. There's barely anything going on there anymore, apparently. So he practically quit, but he had a slot in the Invitational because he won the Gentry Open. And picked up the deck again, jammed in 3 new cards, and came down to the Invitational, fell in love with the format again, and has been very eager to come back.
And also playing really good.
Yeah, he's it's his pet deck. I mean, for sure, and he's a very methodical player that really thrives in that kind of environment.
Looking one spot up, Ruben, is Arthur, also playing his pet deck.
Tricks.
Blue-red Drakes.
Yep. Alan, not on his pet deck. He said he was going to go back to mono red, but
he's not.
Has a very bad experience in the last event he played and decided to ditch it for other things. So.
Okay, so our third game is underway.
Yes.
Bob kept a 7, Kristof mulligan into 6, keeping his 6-card hand right now. And there we got the first discard spell. And then we got Search for Ascanta or Primal Amulet. I can't see it from here. If it's Search for Ascanta, it's... Wait a minute. Oh, Kristof doesn't have blue mana. Ooh, that's painful. He's got all blue spells and no blue mana.
That's a really greedy keep, actually.
Yeah.
Did he
drawing another blue spell?
See his land, or was just like, it's a control matchup, we won't be casting things for 20 turns?
Probably. He probably doesn't like to go to 5. And then Narset. This is going a lot better for Bob already. Minus a Snarset finds a wealth of options. Going for Sahili instead of Duress. Because
Bob knows pressure will win him the game, or has the opportunity to win him the game at this
and
point.
also I glimpsed his hand. He has another Duress in hand also.
Wow.
At one point you will have too many Duresses. There we go. Forced to take Chemist's Insight, the rest were all lands. Yeah, Kristof?
Yep, not looking too juicy.
Without blue mana, you're not gonna cast anything, my friends.
The rest take whatever.
Wow, that's a hand of all blue cards.
I think doesn't even matter what. I think I take the Shimmer here. Well, no, because he'll top deck blue and then he can cast the other one anyway.
Yeah.
But Shimmer, no, doesn't matter what he takes.
Well, Shimmer deprives him of the ability to draw an island and cast it and find some more gas. He doesn't even do that. Oh, come on. That's a painful one.
Kristof, what did you do? There's coverage of your match.
So here, I started adjusting the deck and adding more lands. Kristof is now playing 24. I'm starting to conclude that it's maybe it maybe could use like one or even two more lands.
Yeah, because you're also playing the full set of growth spirals, right?
Definitely.
You really have an advantage of those extra. Oh, we get a Kazmina as well.
The 2 lands extra could also just be Memorial to Geniuses, which like provide some more card draw.
Yeah. Yeah, and now Kazmina's here to double the speed of the clock.
Yep. So one lesson learned here: should probably play 1 or 2 more lands.
And more blue ones.
And more blue ones. Well, let's see how many does he play. So let's.
That was mostly a joke, but.
So he's playing 8 islands, and then 2 Thornwood Falls and
14 blue sources.
4 Swiftfall Eclipse. Yeah. Yep. 14. Yeah, it should be fine. But he's just drawing all the red-green mana. And Bob's just going off. I mean, look at this field. It's like, there we go, the island.
Should have knocked the deck earlier. Bob's already sitting on the negate.
Yeah. And he has pressure, you know.
Yeah.
Got 3 Servus Andre, 2-2 from
And
Kazmina,
2/2,
which is 5 a turn. So Kristof is like 2 to 3 turns.
Probably
give and
3
take.
turns.
Yeah.
Because he has to interact, and that will give Bob the opportunity to cast things.
Yep.
If he can cast.
Uh,
and the second.
I got a
2/2
question.
comes. Yeah.
Kazmina, what is her static ability?
You need to pay 2 extra to target things.
Ouch. Painful. Alright. And I can imagine Kristof has sided out his Fox. With his Fox, I'm talking about Root Snares.
Yeah. So we have 7 on the board already.
This is Primal Amulet. There we go.
That's not going to help him.
Not quite.
I wouldn't even counter this.
It's a dangerous one because it's a cost trigger, so you will eventually flip it if you play enough cards, and then
4
when
or
you
more. The game's gonna be over before that happens.
I don't know, the deck plays a lot of cantrips, and once you start flipping it, you start copying spells, so Bob can't really counter because the copy will always resolve. I don't know, it's dangerous is enough.
I don't know. Kristof's dead in 2 turns. Gets beaten
Probably.
for 9 here.
So 2/2s and then 5
5
1/1s.
1/1s. Yeah. This is G and the G.
Yep, sick beats. And then
And
I
a Thought
Eraser
Eraser
just-
for good measure, just to wrap things up.
Nice. He looking at the hand like, if he had more time, if he drew his lands,
Yeah, definitely.
we would have a game.
Yeah.
But now he's trying to claw back.
I think that he should have mulliganed. I mean, you know there's Duresses and Thought Erasures in the hand. I'll sit on doing nothing because this is a control match is, I don't think, the correct way to approach this.
No, probably.
But of course, hindsight is 2020, or
you can argument both sides, because Kristof was probably thinking, look, I'm playing against a deck with a lot of discard spells. Do I want to go to 5 and have my 5-card hand discarded? I think that probably
5,
was his
but he
mindset.
kept his opening 7.
No, he moved to 6.
Really?
Yeah.
Ah.
Okay, now we got something interesting going on. He had a Reclamation, and he can cast it, but can he follow it
He
up?
knows his opponent
And
has
Bob
a negate.
has a negate.
We know it. It was revealed of the Narset.
Oh, okay, I missed that one. Okay.
So
So,
yeah.
cool matchup to watch. This was real interactive Magic.